The gaming industry created a monster that it now fears. You've probably heard by now that Ubisoft had an Assassin's Creed game that they cancelled in 2024, and that game was set in the post-Civil War Reconstruction era in the United States. And reportedly, the reason why they cancelled that game is due to racist backlash. Now, as someone who has experienced racist backlash from gamers from throughout the year of 2024, I can say that it is no joke, and I can empathize with why they would think that is the right move. What I'm here to talk about is what I call the Frankenstein effect in the gaming industry. Essentially, I think the gaming industry created a monster that it now fears. So early video games were not explicitly gendered. Prior to the game crash in 1983, they were marketed towards families, and obviously had kids going to arcades, etc, etc. But in 1983, the video game market collapsed due to the presence and saturation of so many video game consoles being available for consumers, which caused confusion, but also the video games that were produced weren't actually great quality. And so that, plus other economic factors, caused a crash. And this crash saw the end of second generation consoles like the Atari 2600 or the Fairchild. So this crash coincided with Nintendo's planned release of the Famicom that was planned to be released in the United States. So Nintendo decided to change strategy. They renamed the Famicom to the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, and marketed it as a toy. Now, toys in the 1980s were gendered. You had quote-unquote strictly masculine toys like G.I. Joe, Action Man, etc. And then for strictly feminine toys, you had Barbie and Easy Bake Oven, etc. This really reminds me of Baby Born. So Nintendo ultimately opted to market the NES to boys and followed through with a change in slogan, which was "Now you're playing with power."
You're playing with power.
Which is a decision that shaped industry norms, because other publishers and other hardware companies started to follow suit. Like Sega, SNK, and eventually Sony, they started following a similar marketing strategy while simultaneously kind of advertising this idea of a male play fantasy. So gaming no longer became a universal pastime, it now became a male gendered hobby. Could say that this perception became self-fulfilling because now consumers started to believe the idea that gaming was just for boys and just for men, and you still see that in conversations today.
I am saying that the more women who play video games are making video games worse.
Even there was a post recently released that was like, women now make up half of the gaming population, as studied by, I can't remember what the body was, but in 2025. And I'm like, women have been making up almost half the gaming population for the last how many years now. This is not new news, but people still have this perception of gaming being a male hobby. Even in this kind of era of like this marketing towards men, even when women were present, they often were hypersexualized, and even if there were women in these hypersexualized adverts, they most likely were never black, which then created a racist and sexist culture into the gaming audience. See where I'm going now? So fast forward to when like social media starts to emerge, and platforms like my own, like BlackGirlGamers, and other companies start to speak to the gaming industry about the lack of representation. Gaming companies start to shift, and diversity starts to become a word that's now worked into people's vocabulary. And in 2020, companies seem to now really want to prove how non-racist they are or have been. But this audience still exists, right? This audience that they've nurtured since the 1980s to think that they are the authority in gaming and they are the ones that should only be catered to. That audience still exists, as evidenced by Gamergate last year, where many people were just subject to such online bullying, including death threats, doxing. So when you start to shift, they become disgruntled, they become unhappy because they're so used to being the status quo, they're so used to being the norm, they're so used to being catered to. So they start to lash out. They lash out at studios, they lash out at consultants and organizations that help the industry become more inclusive, like my own, and they basically bully. And that's why Ubisoft most likely pulled this game back. It is a monster. They created a monster by only catering to one audience, and now the industry is stuck with this monster that they now fear. Well, let's see where this leads us. It's sad that we didn't get that game, because it still sends a message that that audience has control. Well, until the next video.